Hello and welcome to the Fifth Down Huddle. I'm super excited for this episode. If you haven't checked out last week's episode, go ahead and check it out on YouTube or Spotify at Fifth Down Huddle. Now be sure to follow the Instagram page at Fifth Down Huddle. No spaces, no caps, nothing else. Just Fifth Down Huddle, plain and simple. We've got the Instagram page back up and running for these past few weeks, and it's been a really fun time, so be sure to give it a follow. We post daily content, open questions, NFL news as it comes out. So yeah, follow the page. So please follow the pages and sub to the YouTube channel and like this video if you enjoy the content I put out, as it really means a lot, and every subscriber and every like helps. So our first topic today is asking why teams so often completely drop the ball when it comes to choosing who to draft at the quarterback position early in the NFL draft. Now here's some names that might be residing deep in your memory of NFL busts. Jake Locker, who was picked 8th overall in the 2011 draft by the Titans. Heath Shuler, picked 3rd overall in the 1994 NFL draft by the Redskins. Ryan Leaf, picked 2nd overall in the 98 NFL draft. And Jamarcus Russell, picked number 1 in the 2007 NFL draft. These are the players I'm going to talk about today because I believe they are the absolute worst on a list that expands well past comprehension. The list of first-round quarterback busts. In this section, though, everything is going to be pointing back towards a common theme or question, which is normally how I do things here, similar to last week with the James White section. This section's question is focusing on why NFL teams screw up so often on early quarterback draft picks. Granted, there are a lot of successful picks as well, but with millions of dollars, jobs on the line, and a multi-million-dollar organization riding on a team of experts to choose the right man, you'd figure quarterback busts would be a lot less common. Yet, here we are. So let's start by looking at these QBs that I listed and the how and why to their infamous title of a draft bust. First off, we have Jake Locker. Jake Locker was chosen 8th overall in the 2011 draft by the Tennessee Titans. Top 10 pick would end up going 9-14 in his career with the Titans, ultimately retiring in 2014 after just 3 years in the NFL, an injury-filled career. So where did the scouts go wrong on this one? In his first real college season, or at least his first season in which he actually had playing time, Locker ended up breaking several records. He set UW records for rushing yards in a season by a freshman with 968, rushing yards in a season by a quarterback, also a Pac-10 record there, rushing attempts by a quarterback, 172, passing yards by a freshman with over 2,000, touchdown passes by a freshman with 14, and the longest pass completion with a 98-yard pass to Marcel Reese in a game against Arizona. His second season was ultimately a failure, with a controversial unsportsmanlike conduct call costing his team the game, as well as the worst season in program history. His third season was a bit better, but as expected, not amazing due to playing on an unranked team. The unranked Washington team was led by Locker and finished with a 5-7 record, but was highlighted by an upset win over USC and an upset win over California State. His performance in his third season did not go unnoticed, though, as he was rewarded the Male Sports Star of the Year award and the 75th Annual Seattle Male Sports Star Awards. In his final season, Locker decided to continue his tenure with Washington rather than move into a top-level program. This season wasn't much better, though, as he remained with a losing college record by the end of it, and he was heavily criticized for a 4-20 performance in a blowout loss early in the season. Now, for this one, I think the scouts were simply too ignorant in part of the Titans. It was revealed later on that Tennessee was hooked onto his strong arm and his ability to really shoot the football like a bullet from a rifle. Although this love of Locker's arm ended up clouding their common sense, as they picked a quarterback top 10 in the NFL draft who had a 53.9 completion percentage and just 7,600 yards over the course of 4 college seasons, not to mention an average 53 touchdowns to 35 picks. Not exactly top 10 talent. Next up, let's look to Heath Shuler, one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history. Under head coaches Johnny Majors and Philip Fulmer, Shuler gained national attention as one of the SEC's top quarterbacks. After a small role in the 1991 season behind quarterback Andy Kelly, he became a top-level passer. In the 1992 season, he passed for 1,712 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions as Tennessee finished with a 9-3 record. In his third season, or the 1993 season, Shuler racked up 2,300 yards to go along with 25 touchdowns, coming second place in the race for the Heisman Trophy. Now, to start his NFL career. He was selected third overall by the Washington Redskins in '94 and started out his NFL career with a holdout in hopes of a better long-term contract. This holdout was successful as he was given a 7-year, $19.25 million contract. The Redskins were hoping that Shuler was the quarterback of the future and were hoping that he would lead them back to the Super Bowl. This was not the case, though, as in just his first NFL season, Shuler's name in the Redskins organization was riddled with media coverage of a quarterback controversy. A 7th-round pick by the name of Gus Frerotte began to gain backing from fans around the league, especially after Shuler's disastrous 5-interception performance against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Shuler would only start in 18 games over his 3-year tenure with the Cardinals, as he was benched in his third season, replaced by Frerotte. After Shuler lost value to the Cardinals, they decided to trade him to the New Orleans Saints for a 5th and a 3rd-round pick. This would ultimately be a failed trade for the Saints, and Shuler's statistics only remained poor. In the '97 season, Shuler suffered a serious foot injury that would ultimately speak the end of his NFL career. And after being signed by Oakland, his foot would be re-injured during training camp with the Raiders, and Shuler would ultimately be cut that offseason and would retire just a few short months later. So overall, the top 3 pick would finish his NFL career with a passer rating of 54.3. Although, Shuler would find success in other areas, as he would go on to become an established real estate agent, as well as a 5-year tenure with the House of Representatives within North Carolina. Ultimately, though, it seems that Shuler was the result of putting a good player into a terrible situation. The Redskins were a team no better than a team of bench warmers, and the shift from a top-level team in his college career to a supporting cast that could, well, not support him, was something he couldn't adjust to. Not to mention, Washington has a history of turning good college players into bad NFL careers. Next up is Ryan Leaf. I think we've all heard the name, but just to recap, Ryan Leaf was considered a number 1 draft prospect going into the NFL draft, but was ultimately passed on by the Colts for Peyton Manning, a choice that likely earned the Colts GM a pay raise. Leaf finished his college career as a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year, and first-team All-American, as well as second in the nation in passer rating. So as you can see, Leaf was a very, very likable prospect, and he ended up forgoing his senior year at Washington State to enter the 1998 NFL Draft. So overall, a lot of scouts deemed Peyton Manning as the more mature player pick, which was ironic, as this turned out being one of the best analysis points in NFL history. In the Colts' analysis of Leaf, it was said that he was confident to the point where he could be seen as arrogant or even obnoxious. Now, one big red flag for the Colts was the fact that Leaf gained 20 pounds between the end of his junior season and the NFL Combine, which was described as a negative signal about his self-discipline and maturity. Now, the San Diego Chargers held the 3rd overall pick and had arguably the worst offense in the league the season prior, and they desperately needed a new quarterback, so they went for the number 2 pick. They traded their 3rd overall pick, a future first-rounder, a 2nd-rounder, and a 3-time Pro Bowler, all for Ryan Leaf. And the Chargers ended up drafting Leaf with the 2nd overall pick and rewarded him with a $31 million rookie contract capped off with an $11 million signing bonus, which had been the largest signing bonus given to a rookie ever. Leaf's first NFL season was marred by poor behavior, topped off with poor play. He racked himself up a $10,000 fine before the season even began, although he performed well in the preseason. In the Chargers' September 20th game against the Chiefs, Leaf threw 2 picks, fumbled 4 times, and threw just 1 completion. After the game, he was caught on camera cursing at a reporter and had to be pulled away by fellow teammates and coaches. And in Week 4, Leaf threw 4 interceptions in the first half and was ultimately benched. But he would go on to finish his first NFL season with 1,200 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and a sub-50 completion percentage, earning him a deathly 39 quarterback rating. Leaf became known for having a poor work ethic and blaming his teammates for his poor play. In the end of the season, it was even said that Junior Seau called on management to sign a veteran quarterback and wrote, "Get a guy in here not to babysit, but to win. Leaf would miss the 99 season with a shoulder injury suffered 20 minutes into training camp, somewhat poetic justice, saving the Chargers from another abysmal season. Leaf finished his career with just 3,600 passing yards over 4 seasons, along with 14 touchdowns to 36 picks and a 48% completion percentage. Truly a terrible draft choice. Overall, the problem with Leaf had nothing to do with his talent and everything to do with attitude. Again, this reminds me of Locker when the Titans were clouded by one thing which kept them from seeing the rest of the player. The Chargers were so utterly desperate for a quarterback that could lead their offense that they didn't bother making sure the quarterback was who they truly wanted to spend a number 2 pick on. The signs were definitely there, but raw talent can't make up for a poor work ethic and a poor attitude. Ryan Leaf is the perfect example of that. Now, the last player I'll go over in this section is Jamarcus Russell. Being a player who was at one point compared to NFL greats before even being drafted, I'd say he's arguably the biggest draft bust in NFL history, especially considering he was a number 1 overall pick. Russell played college football at LSU and finished 21-4 as a starter. In his early college career, he spent most of his time on the bench. Eventually, though, in 2005, Russell became the starting quarterback, leading the Tigers to a 10-1 record and the Southeastern Conference Division title. Russell was injured in the SEC championship game, which led to them throwing in backup Matt Flynn into the starting role for the Peach Bowl, where the Tigers eventually won 40-3. The very next season, Russell led the Tigers to a 10-2 record and a Super Bowl berth, where he was named Sugar Bowl MVP. In his final season, Russell was named to the All-SEC team. Following that season, Russell ended up declaring for the 2007 NFL Draft, finding his college career with a 62% completion percentage and 52 touchdowns against 21 interceptions. Now, following the scouting combine where Russell impressed teams with his top-tier throwing power and strength, Browns GM Phil Savage stated that his talent is substantial. He's a rare combination of size and arm strength. This ultimately led to Russell being chosen number 1 overall by the Oakland Raiders. It was actually revealed in 2015 that Matt Millen had warned former Oakland Raider owner Al Davis not to draft Russell in the 2007 draft. Russell had apparently struggled to pay attention during pre-draft interviews, so much that he was kicked out of Miller's office. Here's the quote from the radio show in which Matt Millen shared his story. "I keep talking to him. I ask him questions and he looks at his watch," Millen said. "I said, 'You got someplace you need to be?' And he goes, 'Oh, no. I'm sorry, sir.' So I ask him another question. He looks at his watch and I said, 'You're done. Get out of here.'" Millen said he then told Russell to go to see head coach Rod Marinelli, who later told Russell to leave his office as well. "So I'm done. I can't believe what I just witnessed, and so I call Al Davis," Millen said. "I get on the phone and I say, 'Coach, I don't know what you're thinking, but don't take Jamarcus Russell. Don't take Calvin Johnson, but don't take Jamarcus Russell.'" In his first NFL season, Russell held out until receiving a $68 million contract with nearly $32 million guaranteed. He played sparsely throughout his rookie season as he did not participate in training camp due to this holdout. In his second season, though, Russell was named the starting quarterback for the Raiders. In his first regular season start, the Raiders lost 41-14, although Russell played well. He finished 17 for 26 with 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. He would ultimately play relatively average for the remainder of the 2008 season, finishing 5-10 with 2,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. In his third season, Russell was named starter once again. And this season would ultimately be his last, though, as he finished with the lowest quarterback rating, completion percentage, lowest passing touchdowns, and fewest yards among qualifying quarterbacks in the NFL. At the beginning of the 2010 NFL season, NBC stated that Russell arrived to minicamp weighing 290 pounds, and at one point a month later, reports even came out putting him over 300. Russell reportedly kept fighting for the starting job for the remainder of the offseason, but was released on May 6th and would go unsigned. He ended up working with John Lucas, a former NBA head coach and player. John Lucas attempted to help Russell with a return to the NFL, but ultimately cut all ties with Russell after a few months of relations due to his poor work ethic and drive. And Russell, despite several comeback attempts, even at one point offering all 32 NFL teams a chance to have him on their team for free for a year, never played another NFL down. So to wrap up this section, I want to try and pin down some of the largest reasons why these scouts messed up so badly. Clearly, the two biggest reasons for this bunch of busts were clouded minds and an inability to adjust to the NFL. Oftentimes, the top prospects in college football have some top prospects surrounding them both offensively and defensively. So when these players go from top-level coaching staff, supporting cast, and even more in their league to one of the worst coaching staffs and supporting cast in the NFL, it is extremely difficult to adjust. A player like Joe Burrow scares me, as the Bengals need the coaching staff along with the supporting cast to be near top tier in the NFL standards if they want to recreate what Burrow had at LSU. But the other thing comes with the inability to measure heart. It is extremely hard for teams to tell how hard a player will work to win and to win with their team. Some of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, such as Tom Brady, constantly show that work ethic, not only verbally, but behind the scenes as well. It's insanely difficult to measure this, but even when teams see signs of immaturity or inability to give their all for the sake of winning, they oftentimes ignore it in the name of raw talent, such as the accuracy or strength or mobility, and all of which can be overpowered by what's on the inside. A quarterback's drive and want to win. Their work ethic and their overall effort is what will separate them when the spotlight covers the field and the outcome of the game lies in their hands. So time and time again, we see these quarterback busts. We see these situations where teams spend the best picks in the league on arguably the worst players in the draft. Now, I'm not saying this always happens. There's players like Peyton Manning and other players throughout history that have ended up being really, really good quarterbacks. But it's at times really confusing and surprising when a team has all of this on the line, has the best experts in the league looking into it, interviewing these players, looking at every single stat they've ever had, and yet still get it wrong. And it's severely intriguing to me as to how an NFL team can put so much into one choice and yet still not get it right. Now, I want to look at something else a little more quickly today, just a little thing that has to go along with recent NFL news, something more relevant to recent NFL news, and I want to look at this burning question. Should a team sign Colin Kaepernick? Now, don't try and tell me that Colin Kaepernick is a terrible quarterback, because he honestly isn't. Look at the numbers. His final NFL season ended with a 1-10 quarterback record, yes, but he didn't play so terribly that we can blame this on him. In fact, he had a 59.2 completion percentage, not great, but not the worst, along with 16 touchdowns to 4 picks over 12 games, along with 2,200 yards. So no, his final season wasn't terrible, as you can compare this to some quarterbacks from this season. Sam Darnold had an arguably worse season with 19 touchdowns to 13 picks, along with a 61% completion percentage. Now, something I will give you is that he has struggled with injuries. Despite his backup/potential starter career stats, Colin has dug himself a deep hole. No, not in the form of kneeling. It's problems outside of that would keep me from signing him onto a team if I was the general manager. On Tuesday, November 12th, the NFL informed Kaepernick and his representatives that it would stage a private workout for the quarterback that Saturday at the Falcons facility in Flowery Branch, Georgia, and all 32 teams would be invited to attend. Last second, though, Kaepernick moved the workout to an Atlanta area high school, causing a lot of chaos, as this caused several of the teams that had planned to attend that workout to back out. So clearly the NFL gave him a fair shot. Now granted, there's some smaller things in that are a little questionable on the side of the NFL, but the point is, the NFL gave teams a chance to look at him. The NFL gave him a chance to showcase his skill. And it's interesting because the NFL hadn't ever set up an individual player workout before that. Teams do that, agents do that, but never the NFL itself. So it goes to show that despite the intentions, despite whether it was just to clear their name and say, okay, we did something, you can shut up about it now, despite what the intentions were, they gave him a shot. And In the end, do I think Kaepernick deserves to be signed? I'm not sure. Do I think he's entitled to be signed? I don't think so. If I was the general manager, would I sign him? I don't think so. He's a solid quarterback, but hasn't played a real snap of football in nearly 3 years. It's hard to tell if he can even do close to what he did early in his NFL career. I mean, a workout says a lot on your arm strength, but there's only so much a workout like that can show. It's not going to tell a team to sign him. It's a lot different to be standing back there, throwing some deep passes when there's nobody coming at you, maybe 50 people in the stands, and not a whole ton on the line. But when you get into an NFL game and there's top-level pass rushers coming at you, you got a helmet on your head, you're covered in pads, it's a lot tougher. And he's played in the NFL, so he knows that. I'm not saying he doesn't know what that pressure is like, but I think it's hard to expect a team to sign him if he hasn't played in 3 years. And it's hard to tell if he can even do close to what he did early in his NFL career. And I do believe that teams in desperate need of a quarterback should at least work him out, should take a look at him, interview him, see what he needs, see what he wants, see what he might be good at, see where his ceiling is, see if it's lowered to a point of no return or if it's still pretty far up there, and if you can get something out of that. He could be a good backup quarterback. You never know. So if a team is in need of that, and they want the media attention to go along with that, and they want all the drama that's going to come with it, go ahead, take a shot. But until then, a guy that hasn't played in 3 years, that didn't have an amazing final season that says, man, why isn't this guy playing? I'd say you look back to Jamarcus Russell. Nobody feels bad for Jamarcus Russell, right? Jamarcus Russell, like I said, even offered 32 NFL teams. Every team in the NFL, he offered them, hey, I'll play for you for free for a whole year. Just give me a shot. And nobody gave him a shot. And nobody talks about that. Nobody feels bad for Jamarcus Russell. And I think a big part of it is the publicity. Jamarcus Russell, you don't hear stories about him every day, about his constant tries to get back into the NFL even for free. But you do hear about Kaepernick. And I think if Russell was under the same spotlight Kaepernick was, people feel bad for Jamarcus Russell. Jamarcus Russell had some good games. He had a decent first season. He didn't play terribly all the time. Granted, his work ethic was off, but, it's just interesting because there's a lot of quarterbacks in the league that you could argue, hey, this guy could be a good backup quarterback. This guy could do something good. This guy, let's give him a workout. Let's see. And yet we don't give them that chance. And, it's a lot of times the biggest part isn't about race. It isn't about what he's fighting for. A big part of it has to do with, is he going to be a good quarterback? And that's really it. And yes, there are some parts of being a good quarterback that kind of all of this attention that he's brought to himself has to go along with, And do I think it's right? Not necessarily, but it's how the NFL works. The NFL is there because it's a business. They want to win games, and the owners want to win games to make money. They want players there who are going to show up, try their best to win, and not do anything else. And that's really just what they want. That's what teams want. They want a player who's going to come in, who's going to try his best to win, and not really bring any more attention to himself than that. They want a player who only thinks when he comes onto the football field, I want to win, rather than I want to push forward this message that I feel really close to. I agree with. I'm not saying I don't agree with Colin Kaepernick. I really, really do. And I love what he did. He had a stage to showcase what he believes in. Whether or not you agree with it, you can at least respect the fact that he used his freedoms to protest something, to send a message out there. It's a bit hypocritical for people to say, oh, well, he's disrespecting the flag, the freedom, whatever. Well, the thing is if that flag does give us that freedom, if that flag resembles those soldiers that are fighting for our freedom, And one of those freedoms is for Kaepernick to use that stage to send a message. And he knew going into it that he could be fired. He knew that there was a chance that he would be out of the NFL. He knew that. He knew the risk he was taking, and you gotta respect him for that. He isn't some brain dead guy who said, "Oh yeah, nobody's really gonna care. I'm just gonna do this." He knew there were risks involved, but because he knew the NFL is a business, and he knew that not a lot of teams like that type of publicity, and he knew there was a risk, and he took it. A player like Tom Brady, if he took that type of risk, there wasn't really much risk in that because Tom Brady is a very established quarterback. A player like Aaron Rodgers, a player like Russell Wilson, they don't have a lot to lose because they've already proven that they have so much to gain, or that teams have so much to gain from them. So in that aspect, it's difficult to think about of whether or not Cap should be on a team. I think that we shouldn't look at it at anything else in terms of Colin Kaepernick besides, is he going to win us games? And that's all they're going to look at, and that's all they should look at. Like I said, the NFL is a business. They're going to try their best to win games. They're not really going to worry about anything else. And I'm not one of those people that's mad at Kaepernick for what he did. I support it. If you have that stage, you have that power, use it if that's how you want to use it. I mean, you have the freedom to do so. You might get cut. You might not be on a team the next week, but hey, you did it. You put your name out there, you put your message out there, and you fought for what you thought was right. And if nothing else, we have to respect that. Okay? If you don't respect him as a player, if you don't think he's a good quarterback, that's fine. That's respectable. He didn't have an amazing last NFL season. Not every season he played one was great and star-studded. He had a lot of bad performance games. There's one picture that's kind of been spreading around the NFL recently, or at least NFL media, in terms of Instagram and places like that, meme pages, where it's a picture of Colin Kaepernick, and I think it's in the second quarter, and it shows his stats. I think he throws one completion, he has no touchdowns and 4 picks in the second quarter. So I understand that. I understand if you're going to say he's a bad quarterback. What I don't understand is if you're going to say he's a bad person. I don't think he is. He's fighting for what he believes in. He's doing what he thinks is right, and he has the freedom to do that. And if you believe he's disrespecting the freedom by using it, I feel like that's a little hypocritical. I mean, how can you disrespect the freedom by using it? If that flag, say, gives us this freedom to do this, and it gives him that freedom to use that stage to do whatever he wants, if he uses it, is that disrespecting the freedom by putting it to use? Now, granted, I do understand that some people think of the flag as this great symbolic figure of our soldiers and those that are dying to sustain our freedom. I understand that. But again, you have to look at the idea that this wasn't about that. That's not what he was aiming it towards, It's just not what it was about. And I think a part of it also was not just the message, but there's a lot of controversy there in terms of what Kaepernick did. And I think a part of me, believes he knew that. I think a part of me believes he knew what he was doing there and knew that a lot of people were going to get mad and a lot of people were going to throw this around in the media. And he knew that was going to do a lot more than him saying something about it in a press conference. Him doing something on the field, starting a movement throughout the NFL and throughout these players, I believe that he knew, and I respect him for using this. It proves he's not an idiot. I mean, he knew what he was doing. He knew the risk he was taking. He knew what he did, and you got to respect him for that. He knew that going out there on the field and starting that movement and doing something that sometimes is seemingly disrespectful was something that a lot of people would see. A lot of people would see this message. He knew how to get it out there. He knew how to get what he was fighting for out there, and you gotta respect him for that. You really, really have to. I have respect for Colin Kaepernick. I don't think he's a top-tier quarterback. I'm not sure if a team should sign him. I don't think any team should feel like they have to sign him. I think that a team that say is in a bad quarterback situation, which not a lot of teams are. Teams like the Chargers maybe, but not a lot of teams right now are in a terrible quarterback situation. Should give him an interview, give him a workout, just check him out, see if he's worth anything. Put him through the route tree, just see what he has left. And if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't. And don't just do it to clear your name of racism. Don't just do it to clear your name of that. Do it because you need an NFL quarterback. And I think that, that's really it. I have respect for Kaepernick and what he did. I have respect for the way he did it. He used his freedom the way he should, or the way he deemed was right. And that's a choice you have to make yourself, whether it's right or not. And he made that choice. And I stand with what he fights for, and I stand with him, and I deeply respect what he did, and I deeply respect that he used his freedoms the way he did, and he used it in a really, really smart way. But should an NFL team sign him? Unless you desperately need a quarterback, or you're in a bad quarterback situation, you're probably not going to take too long of a look at Kaepernick, the same way you won't take too long of a look at other quarterbacks who had brief, good stints in the NFL. So that's the end of this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back on Wednesday, and I hope I see you next time. Please subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you enjoyed this video and or this podcast, wherever you're watching it from. I will see you next week. Thank you.